Hey there, my name is Graham, and I am putting a transmission back together. It is a RT 6613 by Eaton Fuller. It's coming out of my dump truck, which I'll turn this around. Oh, I can just do it like that. Dump truck is over there, and here are all of the parts. As you can see, it's a lot of parts, but so far it's been pretty simple to take it apart, and we'll see how simple it is to put it back together. Here's the main case, and here are the counter shafts. Don't quote me on all these parts names, but I'm gonna try to do as good a job as I can about calling things what they're supposed to be, or I'll just refer to them as anything. There's the bell housing, and then I think it's the auxiliary and the mid something or other. I think the middle part's called. But here is the main shaft. So we got all the parts cleaned up, ordered all the replacement parts that we needed. It took a couple of rounds to do that, but here's the main shaft, and then reverse goes here. First, second, third, fourth, and then fifth is over there on the table. But yep, this is a transmission. So I'm gonna be probably putting most of the assembly into time-lapse video, but basically here's the manual, and they have a disassembly section, and they have an assembly section, and it kind of walk you through most of the steps, step by step, as to how to do it. And then they also have a picture. What do they call this? Anyway, basically an exploded version of the transmission. So I used both those to make sure I'm putting the right part in the right place with the part number, and then the description, and matching that with the directions. Now I had my assistant slash wife helping me up until we ran to a part that we had ordered the wrong part. So and today's Saturday, so she's not out here today with me. But that's pretty much it. We didn't get very far. Basically, the assembly started with this shaft, and then putting these parts on. Basically, they have these little ridges right here where you put the spline spacer washer in, and then you put in the what's it called, the clutch. Yeah, the sliding clutch. So yeah, so the sliding clutch, when it's down here, it's in reverse, and then when it's up here, this is first, and then when it goes into center, when this one's down, this goes into second, third, fourth, fifth. So that's kind of how that goes together. And you have to make sure that when you put it on, you line up with the key. And here's the key. I don't know if you can see that. The key is in the center. It runs all the way down through up until right here. So that's pretty simple. Everything's pretty simple about the whole transmission. It's just that there's, I guess with anything, when there's a lot of parts, a lot of moving parts, non-moving parts, you know, it gets kind of complicated as a whole. I guess you could really relate that to anything in life. So anyway, I'm gonna go to a time-lapse assembly of everything, and we'll just see how it goes. So here is a nice as I was taking things apart, I kind of numbered them, kind of named them just to help me out, but mostly the most important thing is when I put them down on the table, I put them in order as to the way that they came apart, with the exception of this table. But yeah, so in fact that was actually one of the most frustrating parts, was trying to get the main yoke off of the transmission, and I had to order this monster right here, which is a 70mm socket. So I called around everyone within 20-30 miles, and everyone had to order it, so I just ordered it off of Amazon. So that was probably I would just go straight to Amazon if I didn't think the local people would have it. So anyway. Because another thing that I wanted to talk about was ordering parts. Ordering parts, your best bet is to go to Eaton Fuller, if it's an Eaton Fuller transmission, and download all the manuals you can for your transmission. And then they also have these other manuals for the air systems that are kind of general. I found this is the older pictorial diagram and parts numbers, and then there's a newer one that I found, which is, has better better diagrams and just more clear pictures of each part. It's a little more detailed than this one right here, and we compared that to this one. These are just better. Then the air system manuals are just kind of general for a lot of different Eaton Fuller, so I downloaded all those, which is, this one was 200 pages. And then the driver, I downloaded the driver's instructions for this transmission. But anyway, getting back to ordering parts, I found that ordering them online is the easiest way to do it. It was actually faster than ordering them from Truck Pro, even though Truck Pro had a couple of parts that I ended up not ordering, or they actually came in before the parts from Truck Pro came in. Anyway, it's a long story, but when you order them online, you got to be careful that they're generally, I like to order OEM, and so you have to be careful with some of these online. I guess with anybody, you have to be careful about buying genuine parts, because I bought some parts from pgtruckparts.com, and let's see, pgtruckparts.com, and they were not genuine parts. They were aftermarket parts. It took forever to get these parts, and I had to reorder because I actually ordered one wrong part. And you have to, whenever you do order parts, make sure that you're ordering according to the more updated, and whatever matches the parts that you're taking out. Make sure that you check part numbers on everything if you're replacing something, and make sure that it coordinates with the part that you are taking out. I'll give you for instance. Well, anyway, just double check that, because a lot of these parts only match new parts, so, or the updated parts. So anyway, just keep that in mind. Okay. All right, so I ran into a kind of an issue with this sliding clutch, and it says in the manual to position this O, see that O right there, towards the front of the main shaft. And so it took me a second to figure out where the front of the main shaft was. So in this case, if I can see it too good, but the bottom side is the front, and the so I'm trying to think how to describe it, but all the gears are, I guess, towards the bottom, and so yeah, so basically you point that towards that down. And the way that I kind of figured that out, if you look at it, it just makes sense, because this has a bevel on the inside of it, and this does not, or that this is a concave bevel, and this is a convex bevel. If you look at all these, in fact, that's not really even true, because really this end is really flush, and that has the bevel on the inside, so that's actually more the case. And on this side and this side of this clutch, and this side and this side of that clutch, it looks like that. So that would tell me that it goes into the gear like that down. So that's the way I'm going to put it in. Hopefully that's correct. And then here's the gear, and for each part that I put on, I check the part number. So there's the part number. In fact, if you want to check, let's see if I can get it to where you can see it. You want to check if something's counterfeit or not, you can just really just check that right there. And that, I guess, is everything going to be? Yeah, everything's backwards because I have it on the, selfie side. But anyway, it says Fuller right there, and then the part number is on the other side, whereas a lot of the counterfeit, they don't even have the part number on them, so, or aftermarket, I should say. Some of them are counterfeit aftermarket. So anyway, you put this piece on, this is the flush side, and that matches the other gear. Put that down. Actually, I said that backwards. You put that. I said that backwards. You face that part up. So. All right, so I've made a little bit of progress on this, I think. I might have to go backwards, but I had trouble with the timing. I had trouble with the timing, getting it in there because I didn't take either one of the counter shafts out, and so every time I would line up the front gear, the first gear, with the two counter shaft first gears, it wouldn't sit, the reverse gear wouldn't sit down where it was supposed to, and then vice versa. So that took me quite a few times to get that right. And then I had some trouble getting the plates on and the bearings on the back because of the spacing, and I didn't have the right tool to push everything forward, so that took a good bit of work. So I'll just flip it around and show that. Let's see. Okay, actually, I don't think I can flip it around right now, but yeah, so I have the timing on this, and then I have the timing on these two counter shafts, and the same thing back here. Well, actually, I don't have timing back here. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to or not, but I wouldn't think that I am. And then this plate right here, I had trouble getting it on. So there's a plate in here with some springs on it. There's a plate here, and then there's another plate that goes in there with springs on it, and this plate right here has a bevel that matches the bevel on the other one, and then here is the bearing snapper ring. So I had trouble getting this snapper ring on right here, and so I'm still not sure if it's right, because the only way I can turn it is with a screwdriver. So we'll see. I'm going to put the front bearing in and see if it loosens up, and then put some oil on it, see if I can get it to turn by hand. So it might just be tight, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, wish me luck. Thanks. Okay, so where I'm at now is I basically had to go back to square one. When I got it all together, I went to go spin the transmission, and it would not spin. And so I'm assuming my tolerances are off between my splined spacers or splined washers. So instead of ordering more spline washers, which I'd actually have to buy them smaller, or order them smaller than I need them smaller than the smallest you can order. So at least that's my assumption. I'm making them smaller than you can order them whenever I'm kind of fixing them up kind of on the fly here. So my tolerances have to be for the For the reverse, it has to be a minimum of 0.005, and then for forward, 0.005 to 0.012 inches. So I'm making that happen by taking these washers and grinding them down over here on each side, and then rubbing them on the concrete, and then measuring them, and just kind of going back and forth until I get it down to where I need it, to where basically the gap in here, which I'm measuring with this, and sticking it in there to measure the gap. So it has to be between 0.005 to 0.012 inches. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I had to go back to the starting point. So that's what I get for not taking the tolerances too seriously. Oh well. All right, so still have the issues here. I called the manufacturer. I've been in contact with the manufacturer since the beginning, and we kind of came to the same conclusion that we're not sure if it's the fact that I'm not using OEM parts, or if my timing's out, or so it's either the washers are not small enough, not thin enough, or it could be the main shaft is just not OEM, or it could be that the washers, the spacers, spline spacers or washers are not OEM. That's why I'm a big believer in OEM, because it just takes a lot of variables out. You can pretty much generally trust that OEM is going to be to spec, and it just makes it a lot simpler, and you get a known performance out of the parts. So unless you're 100% sure that you're going to be improving the total system because of some sort of defect in the original equipment, I would not go with anything other than OEM, with original equipment manufacturer. So I'm having to go back through. I took the whole thing out again. In fact, I keep on going further down the process, hoping it would fix it by putting in all the bearings on the front and back of the main shaft. And none of that fixed the problem, which is it's not spinning. So it should spin almost not quite free, but it should be easy to turn by hand. And I can't get any of these sliding clutches to engage. So I'm going to grind down the washers again. So hopefully that'll fix it. So we'll see. Alright, so I brought down all my spline washers, spline spacers to point. Showing backwards, but it's 0.2555 with my Pittsburgh caliper from Harbor Freight. So I don't know if I was supposed to do that, but and I might have gone overboard, but I really don't feel like taking this thing apart again. So we'll see how that goes. All right, here we go. I guess I'll make a note of something real quick. I tested my gaps here. They're a lot higher than they were before. A little bit. A lot. The spacing between first and second, third and fourth is much bigger, and I assume the one on fifth on reverse and the fifth gear are also bigger because I ground down all of the spacers. So I'm going to take a minute and kind of go over how this transmission works a little bit. So you have a counter shaft is over here. See, counter shaft. Over here you have a counter shaft, and that splits the load on the transmission from. It splits the load as if you compared to if you just had one. So you have two. This is an Eaton Fuller. Some Macs have three. Or I think all Macs have three, and they divide by three. And I guess the good thing about having two or three is that the force is even, so it's coming from two sides. Third, if you have three, then it's even more even. But I guess maybe a pickup truck or something like that might have just one, or some equipment might just have one. So this is a Eaton Fuller. This is kind of interesting. So it's an Eaton Fuller RT. It's an Eaton Fuller Roadrunner RT 6613. And so you would think it had 13 gears. What it has is 13 different ratios, but it has 15 positions. So it has a high, intermediate, and low. So you have two buttons, and that gets you can start off in low, low, and then go to low, and then high, or some people call it, or sometimes it's described as low, intermediate, and high. And in each, it has an H pattern, and so you have 3 different lows, and then 15 forward gears. So, and the reason they call it a 13 gear, it took me a while to figure this out, is because two of the ratios are redundant. So you can skip 2 of them. I don't know which 2, because usually I don't use the low or the low. Usually I go intermediate, high, or what you call low, high, and not low, low. So anyway, that's kind of one of the interesting things about a 13 speed with this particular one, because this one doesn't have overdrive, so the low is super, super low because it's for a dump truck. All right, so I decided to kind of, I couldn't get the timing right, or I was just questionable about that, so I decided to go back and try to take out this counter shaft, which would kind of put me in sequence with the book as to how to do the timing instead of trying to drop it down. So that's where I'm at. I took off this back bearing. I'm having trouble with this front bearing, so I greased it down, oiled it down. You're supposed to punch it through. You're supposed to punch through a soft metal like this, and it's just not happening. So if I break it, I'm at tomorrow's gonna be Thursday. I'm not gonna be able to get a new one until Monday. So I'm gonna ice down this counter shaft, and I'm gonna probably apply some heat to the outside of this maybe, and try to, I'm going to put a bearing puller on it right here, and I'm going to apply pressure. I'm going to push or hammer this shaft through. Hopefully that'll get it broken out, without breaking it. I'm going to do that in the morning. So that's where we're at right now. Found my timing marks, manufacturer's timing marks on these counter shafts, which is right with the orange marks that someone put on there before I got it. And so that's where we are. Yeah, found the timing marks on the I don't know what you would call this, idler down here, an idler, the counter shaft idler, or the, I don't know what you would call it. It basically transfers the power to the counter shaft. There's an idler right here, and then there's an idler, basically the counterpart that would go right here. So anyway, that's where we're at. Call it a night. Okay, so what I have here is a bag of ice, and I have here butane, torch, MAP gas, and I'm going to, so I'm cooling the counter shaft, and I'm going to heat the housing, and that will essentially, the ice will shrink the counter shaft, which is in the center, and make that smaller. The heat will expand the housing, allowing for the bearing that's between the two to hopefully loosen. So what I have here is two different ways of measuring. I have here is a laser thermometer, which I have that because it was in my toolbox, and it was you know, measuring the temperature while I was driving down the street. So that's one way of doing it. But I have something here that's a little bit better, which is a floor, or whatever, however you say it, floor infrared camera. I use this for, we do asphalt and concrete work, but we also do thermoplastic, which is highway striping. And this is, we use it sometimes for roller patterns and for making sure that we have even temperatures for thermoplastic and for paving. So, and also you can use for all kinds of things. What I'm going to do here is, all right, so apparently I had some sort of issue. I don't know if it's because I had charged it just for a short period of time. Let me adjust this too. There we go. So I don't know if it's because I had this charged for a short period of time, or because it's been in my truck for, you know, several years. It was reading 50-something% for the battery, but it only worked for maybe a little bit less than a minute when I went to go use it just now. So I have it plugged in to power, and so now it's working. Now it stopped working. All right, so I've charged up this infrared camera, and let's see. All right, so what I have here is a floor infrared camera for a cell phone, and I'm going to just kind of show. There, it fucking died. Damn it! I think it's fucked up from the car. All right, so apparently my infrared camera has crapped out, and so I'm going to just go ahead without it. This is actually the only video I've done where I haven't actually worked in it. All right, so we got to change the plan. I was able to source a bearing, so I'm going to cut this one off. I'm going to take my DeWalt angle grinder. I'm going to cut along the bearing right here. I'm gonna around the perimeter of the bearing and then pull out each bearing, and the rest should fall right out. So that's the new game plan. All right, so I grind it down. All right, so I grinded down all of the washers. I got a washer over here. This is a spline washer. So I grinded down all the spline washers and measured them with the caliper, and they're all consistent and uniform. So I did that, and I didn't think that was, I didn't feel like taking it apart and putting it back together again. So I went ahead and found this bearing, which is not exactly the same as the bearing that I took out of there, which also might not have been OEM. Doesn't have the groove right here for the snap ring, and it doesn't have a spacer or a separator inside here for the cylinder bearings. So anyway, but the good news is I get it. Everything's in there. It seems to be well timed. Everything seems to be well spaced. I can go between all the sliding clutches, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and reverse, and they're all sliding, the way that they need it. Everything's working like it should, supposedly, apparently. And so I guess I'll explain these washers real quick. So these washers basically sit inside of the gear, and they hold the gear in place. So this holds the gear in place, and then a key in here, you see how it's square, it's not round, it's square. A key fits in here, and there's a key in the main shaft, and so that key holds this in place. This holds the gear in place, and the same key holds the sliding clutches in place. So everything in the transmission is always moving. It's just a matter of where the power is coming from. And so they have a power flow chart that you can look at. So that's kind of something that's important to understand. So, but the issue that I have at hand right now is that this bearing is not going on here easy. So, and this is the bearing for the counter shaft. So I brought a bearing heater, aka a toaster oven, and I'm going to put it in there, and I'm going to heat it up to 150 degrees. And see if I can't slam it on to this shaft right here. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so the bearing that I got, a little better. All right, so the bearing that I got was the bore on it was too small, so I had to open it up. So the first thing I tried was putting a drill bit, just a drill bit on here, and trying to see if I could open it up a little bit like that. Put it on a vise, see if I could waller it out a little bit or whatever, and then that didn't work. Didn't change much. So I went to a round file, just the metal file. That didn't do anything either. I don't know why. I guess because I couldn't put the force on it that I really needed to. It was spinning. The inside bore was spinning, and the vise was holding the outside race or whatever. So then I put a piece of sandpaper on here and spun it. That took a little bit of metal off, but not very fast. So then I took, and the whole time I was spinning it with just the drill bit. So then I took sandpaper and attached it to that. That was a little bit better, but still it's going super slow. So I went and got, which I already had it, but there's a different location in the back, a abrasive stone that I put on the end of this grinder. So this took care of it real fast, and then I refined it a little bit with this, and so then it went right on it. I didn't even heat it that time. So yeah, so that's what I had to do to get it on, and now it is on. Let's see if I can get that. Where is it? It's right there. So that's on, and everything spins smooth. So this is the sliding clutch. Let's see, sliding clutch right here. It's in reverse. Let's see. It's hard to do it with one hand, but there we go. That's in reverse. This is first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, or drive gear. So, and it turns super easy, even in drive. So that's a good thing. That's the way it's supposed to be. All right. Alright, so I'm just now getting to finishing up the intermediate section of the transmission, and so I'll kind of explain that a little bit. Flip you around here. So what I have here is, this is the old main shaft, and this right here is a gap where you have these intermediate sliding clutches in here, which, so you have these two gears that are right here. They're connected, but they're connected where they could slip past one another. Further. Anyway, and so whenever you hit the button in the cab on the gear selector, on the shifting, it pushes this forwards and backwards when you go up and down with it. And so what that does is it engages and disengages. Basically, it slides, either it slides past, shoot. Anyway, you pull this forward, you push it forwards, or you pull it back. That's what the actuator is doing. And it is going on and off of this with the inside splines, and it is also going into this piece right here, back here. There are two different pieces in here. Let's see if I can get the light. Right. Anyway, I can't get the light to where you can see it, but anyway, this one right here is sliding into this whenever it's engaged or disengaged. I'm not gonna pretend like I know exactly what it's doing, but that's kind of how it works. So there we go. All right, so right now it is hard, so I'm assuming that it is actually disengaged because it's not using the housing, which it's not using the intermediate housing, which would make it more difficult to which makes it more difficult to spin, which tells me when you're not using gears is when it makes it hard, or you're not using the additional gears. So is when it's harder. When you're using all the gears you have available is, there we go, is when it's easy. So the power is going this way, and so when you're just using this section is when it's in the highest gears, and then when you're using this section and this section, you're in the intermediate gears, and then when you're using this section, the section I have not put on yet is when it's in the low gears. And so the less you're using, the harder the I guess the faster you're going, and you have that's when you're able to use that momentum. And so, you know, the higher speeds you go, the less gears you need to use. And of course, you know, there's sequences of bigger and smaller gears within this main unit, within the main housing. So that's kind of you know, the way that I understand it, and hopefully that helps y'all out, because I guess you don't really think about how exactly it works with you have basically 3 different transmissions all in one, is how I would kind of describe this. Ooh boy, look at that Louisiana rain. All right, so we're coming along, getting a lot of parts put on. Kind of winding down on our parts table, so that's a good thing. All right, so I'm just going to get a quick view of all the tools and things that I used throughout the project. I'm not going to name everything, but just kind of maybe give you a little bit of a hint as to what you think you might need. And I'm still not done, as you can see, but we're getting close. We are getting close. And I didn't necessarily use all these things either, but just kind of give you an idea of maybe a reminder before you go to the store, what you might need to pick up. All right, so probably in the last video or the last clip, you saw me bringing the transmission out to the truck. Brought it out to the truck, hooked it up to the air on the truck, and the high range did not work. So tried to do some stuff out there that same day and night. Worked till about 3 in the morning trying to get it in, and couldn't get it. So brought it back into the barn, and I never would have got it out there because the synchronizer pulley put it on backwards. So the synchronizer pulley or the actuated synchronizer pulley was put on backwards. So it's like a rookie mistake, right? Anybody could have done that. And this is it. So this is the piece, and I put it on backwards. So I either put it on like this or I put it on like this, and it should have been, you know, the opposite. So you see how it's offset to one side from the, see the center of it. Anyway, it all makes a big difference. You know, was not paying attention apparently, and I should have tested it as I was going. I ended up going and getting this fitting right here. Let's see, right there, that fitting would have saved me about, I don't know, I don't even want to think about it, many, you know, 10 hours or something like that. So because I had to bring it in, I had to bring it back, I had to put it out there, I had to bring it back, take it apart, bring it blah blah blah. Anyway, and the reason I really didn't realize it sooner is because I never did take this apart. You know, as I'm working on it, I'm you know, you assume that the less you take apart the better, but I found out with this transmission, really, it's really easier to just take everything apart, clean everything, put everything back together, because you can follow the directions. So if that's my advice to anybody, is if you really know what you're doing, yeah, okay. Or if it's clear that you've taken it apart to a certain point and you can put it back together, and there's gonna be not any issues. But really, if you drop this thing down and you know, here's my number one advice. If you've never done it before, like I've never done it before, have two of them. I mean, you know, I could have got a pull running for $1,000 or $1,500. I should have pulled this one out, put that one in. If it didn't work, whatever. I got another one to rebuild. Then I can, you know, I would have two. In fact, if you know, pretty soon I'll probably buy another one of these. I'll look for a good deal, you know, anywhere between $500 and $1,500 to get another one. And just go ahead and rebuild it. I kind of can't say I like enjoy it, but if I didn't have my truck sitting out there, I would have been able to enjoy it a lot more. Plus I've done it now, so you know, doing it again for the same exact model, I have one just sitting on the shelf ready to go. Even if I had a professional doing it, even if I brought it, you know, had it towed to a shop and bought it, you know, I spent $7,000, it still would have taken a week or two. So this, by doing it like this, you know, theoretically within 4 or 5 hours I could be back up running if I had two transmissions, one sitting on the shelf. So you know, if you got time and you want to learn about it and you're interested in doing transmission work, then just go ahead and buy another used or pulled running, or you know, whatever. I would get one that's pulled running, take it apart, look at it, learn it, you know, buy the bearing set, buy the gasket set, buy the small tools set, not set but kit, and just, you know, have it be your erector set. You know, take it apart, put it back together, like a hobby. But then you can, you know, save $7,000, or you'd save, you know, $5,000 or whatever in the future. So, and you know, a lot of opportunity costs. So yeah, so that was the issue right there. Now I'm still having a little bit of issue whenever I plug it in. I'm getting a little air leakage right here from this actuator. It wasn't doing that before, I don't think, but I don't know. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the truck, because this is not a big deal to fix. I don't think. You know, I say that. I said it's like everything's working.
I could run through all the you know, high, the deep reduction, the intermediate, and the high ranges. So I can go through all the ranges. I can go through all the gears. It has a little air leak right here. It's either I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like a little chunk of metal with holes in it and 3 gaskets and a nipple at the top. Anyway, I don't remember what it's called, but I think I can just replace that. So hopefully there's not something going on further inside of this. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and take it apart right now just in case. So after this, I'm not gonna show me hauling this with the tractor again. I'm probably gonna, the next shot will be of me under the truck putting it in. So. All right, it's kind of loud right now because the generator's going, but I went ahead and opened this up, and in here you see a gas. This is where the actuator is. I went ahead and got. I couldn't find any specifications on this washer gasket, whatever they specify. I put this rubber gasket on here, or rubber washer. So I'm gonna go ahead and see. So you put that on. Anyway. Oh man, it's loud. Alright, so anyway, I'm going to put that in there. So this connects to, air comes into here and exits through here, and when you switch the valve, it goes the opposite way basically. And so I'm going to see how that works. Alright, so if you're looking at it right there, and I hook up this, before when I would do this, you could hear it leaking, and now it just holds. So, I fixed it. I'm glad I did that now, instead of later. All right, so here we are at the moment of truth for this transmission rebuild. I wouldn't say it's a total rebuild, but as close to a rebuild as I'm interested in doing right now, without knowing if it's going to work or if I have. Well, I've invested so much time in this thing. I probably should have done a total rebuild with new bearings. That's about the only thing I really could have done more was put all new bearings in it, and it's got about half, probably about 1/3 of the bearings are new. So here we go. Here's the moment of truth. I got this load that's been on here for too long, and we're gonna find out if I wasted too many hours by rebuilding it myself instead of buying a rebuilt one, which is going to be my contingency plan. But let's see what happens. So here we go. It's a little loud. It's going to be a little shaky in here. So all right, here we go. It's in neutral. Got the PTO out. Clutch. Well, that's a good sign. It's quiet. That's a good sign. Apparently, everything's quiet. It sounded like normal. That's good. I'll get out and check. pavement area. Everything looks good. Yep. Can't wait for the pressure to build, and we'll get on our way. We got a load here of wrap, recycled, asphalt product, pavement. I would say pavement, but I think it's product, recycled asphalt product. Anyway, I got that from one of my jobs. Pretty hot, and I mean, this truck, that load, got hauled from Gretna, so right next to the one, starting on the side of the city. On the way down to New Orleans, this last load for the job was wrap, filled up for the job. Pulling in over the levees, we started making some back in anything, kind of like around the movement, so every game again, occasionally something wrong. So after that, I went ahead and loaded it up. Truck not that long. Once you think about how much more weight is on this rear end because of that, I'm probably weighing about 50,000 to 60,000 pounds. That's not a lot of weight for him, but it was a lot of weight considering the light of the truck. So you underestimate that a little bit. So anyway, if you're driving over the first shot, park and you work out the next day. The bumper changes condition, so drop down and rock like that in there. So when I opened up one of the I opened the first drain, I got 2 drains. The main box, intermediate box. Anyway, when I opened up, I think both of them. I think the first one, something dropped out of it, it's metal, I don't know what it was. The second one, the same thing happened, it fell out. So, anyway, what it was those water spacers that go on each gear in. I think 2 of them were growing. One of them was kind of hard. I had to replace 3 or 4. I replaced the synchronizer going out from here. Hopefully, it's in a better depth than last time. That's one of my major reasons I decided to rebuild it myself. I've had the clutch replaced. I've had the mounts replaced. I've had the synchronizer replaced. Things. Anyway, the motor is the synchronizer. But alright, so all the power stuff got no one remembers us over this phone. Set the phone down on top of the housing, transmission housing, main housing, overnight, and came back the next day and we got the wheel in it, with the metal, messed up the screen, and she didn't. Anyway, so I had to have a truck. Oh yeah, never been good. I mean, I haven't put that many miles. I mean, total I put maybe 60, 70,000 miles in the truck. I've had that. I put about 50. This is supposed to be about 50 grand. So, $1 a mile, a little bit less, a mile. But I just kind of want to learn and start spending a portion of crap. No offense to any mechanics out there, but and exit work on my truck. No offense, guys. I'm sure you're better. I'm sure you're better than that. I'm sure somebody has done a lot. Somebody has done it. Someone said take offense to that. Anyway, here we go. Put in reverse. Intermediate forward. Right. Oh. Ah, yeah, boy. It works. It works. Man, I can't tell you how happy I am right now. I cannot tell you how happy I am. Right. Drive around the farm right now. Can't see what I can guys have to look at. Woo-wee! Damn! Awesome. Tell you what, even if it explodes after this, if it blows up when I'm done with this load, I don't know. I feel good right now about this. Whatever, you know, I'll do it. I got it. So anyway, man, I'm gonna struggle to cut this video off, but man, thanks for watching that. Alright, so I tried it in low, now we're gonna go to intermediate. I mean, we're gonna load the grading gear. You put this blue button forward. So my truck has 15 forward gears, 15, three reverse gears. It's got 6 positions. It's like guess I got, I'm at the blue yard now.